Listen in. As an ex-Google employee and father of 7, mind you, explains why he's tipping his life savings, his life savings, into a very big idea.
Welcome to the Small Business Big Marketing Show, where successful small business owners share their secrets to take your marketing to the next level. Now here's your host, Tim Reid.
G'day motivated business owner, Timbo Reid here. Welcome back to another episode of the world's #1 small business marketing show. A show, by the way, if you didn't know already, laser focused on helping you, the motivated small business owner, grow a business you love through some very smart marketing. So, to that end, let's get stuck right in to some marketing GOLD.
Small Business Big Marketing with Tim Reid.
So, I went to the Melbourne Comedy Festival this week. Laugh! It was hilarious. I have never laughed so hard in a long time. I do love a good belly laugh. I was also pleasantly surprised to come across some great little marketing tips. Who would have thought? At a comedy festival. And that's what I want to share with you in today's editorial. So, my 5 marketing tips from the funny guys. Tip number 1, rely on reviews if you don't want to put people off. Let me explain. In choosing a show to attend, it became obvious that many, not all, of the comedians avoided being too specific when describing their performance on their website and brochure copy. Initially, I found this a bit annoying, then I realised why they did it. You see, the more specific they were, the easier it was for the consumer to quickly decide, no, that show's not for me. The broader they were, the more intrigued I was. In fact, I found myself relying on the image they used to decide if I'd attend their show or not. But even more influential were the quotes from media outlets. Side-splitting, said the Herald Sun. Filthy, disgusting, and very, very naughty, suggested another. These were the basis for deciding what show to attend. Tip number 2, make people laugh. Laughter builds emotion, team. We've spoken about this before. All great brands know this. Find opportunities in your marketing to, at the very least, put a smile on people's dials. Life's too serious. Maybe even make them laugh. And yes, this applies whether you're selling business to business, B2B as we call it in the trade, or B2C, business to consumer. We're all human. We all love a good laugh. And people, I reckon, buy from funny people. Marketing tip number 3 from the Melbourne Comedy Festival. Get your audience involved. Both shows I went to involved audience participation, and it added a whole other dimension. I'm currently doing some speaker training, and I'm also being encouraged to get audiences involved more often. I did it last week, and it worked an absolute treat. It makes what you have to offer so much more memorable. And by the way, this idea applies just as easily to your online marketing activities as it does to if you were speaking at a networking event or an expo. Think about how you can get your prospects involved via, say, social media or email marketing. You can and you should. Tip number 4, cross-promote as often as you can. At the end of both shows, the comedians suggested other shows we'd also like. Amazon do this. People who bought this book also bought this book. You know, you've seen that when you've bought a book before. It's useful for the audience and it's just good karma to promote other businesses. By the way, the 2 shows the 2 shows I saw were called Kraken and Dr. Professor Neil Patel. Absolutely hilarious. Tip number 5, use flyers more often. So much marketing lives online these days, but what about the good old-fashioned flyer? I think every business should have something physical they can leave with a prospect beyond a business card. 2 or 4 pages that clearly states the problem, reveals a simple solution, and contains a solid call to action is marketing gold. Get one designed, print 200, and test it for yourself. So there you go, my 5 marketing tips from the funny guys from the Melbourne Comedy Festival. What a laugh. Alrighty, we have got, as usual, when isn't it an action-packed show, by the way? I mean, that's just what we do around here, the Small Business Big Marketing Show. It has to be action-packed or it wouldn't be on brand. That's what I'm thinking. Now, there's a fireside chat coming up with Troy Westley. He's an ex-Google employee who has tipped his life savings into a big idea that solves a very big problem. Before we get stuck into Troy, let me share some insights from our very, very good friends at, you guessed it, Net Registry. Now, I was at their head office earlier this week in Sydney, met up with Karen and Verity and kind of had a bit of a sponsorship meeting, but also Karen, who has been my contact at Net Registry for the last couple of years, is going off to have a little baby, her first baby. So, Karen, I wish you all the best, and may motherhood and parenthood be an absolute delight. And thank you so much for all your support over the last couple of years. You have been an angelic sponsorship manager, so thank you. And now I'll be working with Verity, and they are bringing on someone new, so that's always exciting. Now, another exciting thing that is happening at Net Registry and with the Small Business Big Marketing Show is that we have just introduced a blog on the Small Business Big Marketing website that is purely dedicated to online marketing, right? So the way it rolls is that on the homepage of the Small Business Big Marketing site, there is a little banner, and I'm just going to click on it now. I'm just going to go to the homepage. There is a banner on the right-hand side that says, "Your online marketing questions sorted free." And there's a Net Registry logo. Click on it, and you will be confronted with a little form where you can give us your name and an email address, and you have 250 characters to write your most pressing online marketing question. And in doing so, the specialists, the online marketing specialists at Net Registry will answer it. Now, let me share some of the questions that have already been answered by listeners. How do I know about SEO? How do I know what SEO company is going to give me the best value for money? Asks one listener. How important is image optimization for SEO? Here's a good question. If I had a brand new business, no website, and $10,000 to spend on online marketing, how would you recommend making the most of those funds? How do I maximize my e-newsletter open rate that I email each week? And there are just question after question after question. Now, you have the opportunity to ask an online marketing question, and the guys, the specialists at Net Registry, will answer them for you for free. No obligation, no nothing. We just want to get your online marketing sorted, because that's what the guys, the team at Net Registry do. So head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com and click on that little banner on the right-hand side that says Net Registry, and you can send us your question, and we will get it answered quicker than you can say, "Geez, Net Registry really get your online marketing sorted, don't they?" Now, my guest today is Troy Westley, and Troy is an ex-Google employee. He was the enterprise sales manager at Google. And he's now the founder of CareMonkey, which is an electronic medical emergency and permission forms service, system, process. You can call it whatever you want, but it solves a massive problem. And that's what great marketing does, doesn't it? It just solves problems elegantly and simply. So there is marketing gold dripping from this ceiling as Troy and I sit around the fire and chew over how he's managed to make CareMonkey what it is today. I started off by asking Troy about that very, very funny film all about Google, The Internship.
Look, it's fairly accurate, and I saw that movie as well and had a few good laughs. Google is an extremely... it's a fantastic place to work. Yeah. It's full of creative people, and they certainly treat their staff with the utmost respect and give a lot of benefits in terms of free dinners and free breakfast and lunch, and lots of little perks and slides to go from one floor to the other. It's quite an interesting interesting place.
I thought you said slides then, from going from one floor to the other.
I did.
Let's just get clear there, mate. Are we talking sort of bright primary colours, yellows, reds, blues, where you literally slide down from the second floor to the first?
You nailed it there,
Wow.
Tim. Exactly that.
Wow. Is that gimmicky? I mean, that is gimmicky, but what did you find that did as a staff member? Did you go, I'm just sliding down to the first floor, or you take the stairs?
It's just a bit of fun, Tim. And,
Right.
People enjoyed that environment. It was different and colourful and just a good place to be around.
Yeah. So, and all those perks, I mean, you read, there's always there's two views to that whole Google thing, isn't there? There's one that says, they just work you to the ground, and the free dinners and the fun and all that's to keep you there working 20 hours a day, and hopefully their greatest wish is that you sleep at the office, or is that part of it?
I think it's part of it. There's definitely no reason to leave the office. That's definitely part of it. And that's probably one of the reasons why I didn't hang around at Google for too long.
Yeah.
Like it was a really difficult job to get. It was a hard interview process that took several months and about 7 different interviews and presentations and so on. But to be honest, Tim, I was too old.
Yeah.
And not too old in terms of, being a fuddy-duddy.
Yeah,
but,
we've all got 19-year-old brains, us blokes, but...
But my, I'd already had 25 years experience in IT.
Right.
And it would have been a perfect job if I was in my 20s, but being in my, 40s... I kind of was getting itchy feet to go and do something for myself. And if I was going to work that hard, I wanted it to be on my own idea.
I had that exactly the same experience at Flight Centre, where, it was just a young culture. It was party. It was social. They expected you to be there long hours. Certainly, as the marketing manager, you had to be there before the stores opened and after they closed. And, I was raising a young family, and I too was just it was a great job, but I was there at the wrong time. And, so, it's funny they didn't pick that up, and it's funny, like Google's, that process that you've gone through over months, it's funny they didn't pick it up.
Yeah, look, it's not Google's fault. It was probably my fault, because at that point, I didn't have the courage to quit my day job and to get into a startup and create something new. And it took a little bit more courage to go and say, right, I've got a good idea, I'm going to commit to it and go for it.
Well, let's talk. I love the courage discussion, Troy, because it's the difference between kind of good and great often. So were you at Google, whilst at Google, just how long were you at Google for, by the way?
It was just over a year.
Yeah, wow. So you really kind of realised pretty early on that you were in the wrong place. And did you have the idea for your own business pre-going into Google?
No, at that point I didn't, but I was spending a lot of the time coming up with ideas. So for several years I'd had itchy feet and wanted to get into my own business. Mm-hmm. But and I spent a lot of time every morning standing in the shower until the hot water ran out, thinking up ideas, and they were all terrible. And the acid test was, would I quit my day job? Mm-hmm. To do this business or to try this new startup.
Yeah.
And I've got a family with 7 children.
You do.
So, which is an expensive household to run. So it wasn't an easy decision to go and leave the pay packet that feeds the family. Yep. to take a risk.
Man, I can hear listeners. Unusually, this show has a high proportion of people trapped in cubicles listening, Troy. So right now, many people are going, oh, gee, where do I find that courage? And for you, really, was it like... Because pre-Google, you're at Salesforce, correct?
Yeah, I was at Salesforce for 6 years. I was the first employee in Asia Pacific, and that was a brilliant job.
Right.
And,
so even in that time, you every morning in the shower, hot water running out, ideas coming to you, you going, nah, wouldn't leave my job for that, and then all of a sudden, one day, an idea in CareMonkey has come to you. Is that right? Is that kind of how it worked?
Yeah. What happened is I started coming up with a lot of ideas. And I thought, right, if I'm really serious about this, I'm going to have to leave Google. And I still didn't have all the courage. And what I did was I left the company and I took up a 6-month contract with a friend of mine. And And the deal I had with him was that I'd work 3 days a week in his business, and that would give me 4 days a week to work on my ideas. And we got to the end of the 6-month contract, and he said, Troy, this has been great. We've achieved so much. Let's talk about what we're going to do in the next 6 months. And then I thought to myself, you know what? I've just invested another 6 months in someone else's business and got nothing done. And that was the turning point for me. I said, well, if you're going to do this, you need to burn all bridges and have a crack. And just about at that time, I was rifling through the filing cabinet at home, and I pulled out a piece of paper by mistake. And that piece of paper was one of our boys' asthma plans. And an asthma plan that's prepared by the doctor, it describes the symptoms of the person having an asthma attack, and it also tells you what to do, how to save their life. Mm-hmm. And I looked at this piece of paper and I thought, what is this doing in the filing cabinet? I mean, I felt embarrassed as a parent and, ashamed of myself that we hadn't made copies of this and given it to school teachers and to family friends and to grandma and other people. And this is where I got the idea for CareMonkey, because I started thinking about how we use social networks today, and we're posting photos on Facebook and we're tweeting on Twitter and we're making business connections on LinkedIn, but there was no electronic network for sharing care information so that you could look after the people that, your loved ones. And that was when I got the idea, and I thought, right, that's it. And that's how we got started.
Wow. And there really was. There was nothing, you could find nothing that allowed you to electronically save this information.
No, not in a secure, it's crazy, isn't it, in this day and age that we hadn't done that yet.
Well, it's wonderful to. Often I hear small business owners either feel or think or say, someone else has done that. It's too late. The boat's left the shore, and I think that's kind of a defeatist attitude, because there's still so many ideas out there, and even if they have been done, there's always the opportunity to do it better. Tell me about, Troy, that time. I want to get into CareMonkey, but just that moment where you've gone, I've got to burn all bridges. I actually have to say goodbye to this mate who I've done 6 months for, and he's really been benefited and enjoyed, me being around. He wants me to hang around. I've got to say goodbye to him. I've got 7 kids, mouths I've got to feed, and you must have had some coin in the bank in order to make the leap, I'm guessing. So tell us about that moment.
Yeah, look, I did have some savings, and let me say I've been drawing down on those. But that's part of taking the risk. And given that I was in my 40s and already had a good corporate career, I was in a position where I could actually take that risk. And it was really a matter of just saying, look, are you going to do it or not? And my wife was supportive, and the rest of my family that I told or spoke about the idea, they were supportive. So it's just really in a fortunate position where I could do it. Now,
what if they weren't?
That's a good question. Maybe I wouldn't have done it. Look, I wouldn't have done it if my wife wasn't supportive, because we're a team. Mm. But I probably still would have gone ahead just on with Lorna's blessing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to have that. I mean, if your right hand man's not or woman's not in cohorts, then you're in trouble.
Yeah, well, look, you don't. There's a little bit more research that you need to do, just aside from having an idea that you think's good.
Well, let's talk about the validity. How did you validate that it was a good idea?
Well, I started out doing what I call barbecue surveys.
Aha.
And that is every time we had a get-together with family or friends, I'd ask them how they share information about their family. And nobody did it well. Nobody did it at all. And then it started, a real common theme started coming up with parents of school-age children. And parents of school-age children get a lot of forms, particularly from the school.
Oh, yeah.
They get them at the start of the year for enrolments. They get them...
Every excursion, mate. Every single excursion.
Absolutely. And I found myself, understanding exactly what they're saying, particularly with all of our children, is that every excursion I'm filling out emergency contacts, medical contacts, these allergies, there's my Medicare number, here's he's got asthma, this one's can take Panadol or whatever. And we write that stuff out 1 million times, and it's really frustrating as a parent to have to repeat yourself over and over all year. But I mean, you know why you have to do it, because the school has a duty of care and they need to look after your child properly, but it's really frustrating. And then I found out that it's equally frustrating for the school, because they're having to continuously send out these forms. Forms get lost. Forms don't come back, or they come back with missing information. So they've got this constant issue of having to chase up these medical and permission forms all year long. It's a real nightmare for them too. And so that's the problem we solved.
So you're at the barbecue test, tick. There's enough people going, yeah, we get all these forms, yeah, it's a nightmare. What was the next step of validating the idea?
The next step was to go and talk to some schools.
Yep.
And then I found out that confirmed that the issue was probably even worse for them. And then so we went out and designed a system that could solve the problems for the group, say a school or a club or even a business.
Yep.
And with parents and individuals who want to share care profiles.
Well, it's much bigger than schools, isn't it? The whole CareMonkey thing's about any body of people that needs to share health information.
Yeah, that's right. It could be for retirement homes or it could be for kindergartens. But we've chosen to focus on schools for the moment because we're only a small business, and I firmly believe that you need to be successful in one specific vertical and nail that, and then move on to other verticals. So as much as
why?
I read a book about more than 10 years ago called Crossing the Chasm by Geoffrey Moore, and he talked about the life cycle of a product. And, there's a bell curve, and at the start of the bell curve you have early adopters who are willing to have a crack at something new. They like to be first and test out new technology. And, then in the top of the bell curve you have all the main market that buys your product, and then it tails off towards the end with the laggards who are really late to come to the market. But his point was that after the early adopters come on, there's this chasm or this hole, and you can't sell to the rest of the market because the rest of the market are looking for specific references that are almost exactly like them. Right? So what you want to do is you want to get a initial customer base of really strong references that the main market can refer to.
Right? Take comfort in.
Yeah. So if we went out and got a handful of schools there and a handful of clubs and a handful of retirement villages and a handful of kindergartens, there's not enough reference base for the main market to go, wow, everybody's doing this. So you pick one market and you nail it, and then you go for another one.
Well, you're a courageous fellow, Troy, because clearly, again, you are spending your savings. You've made the leap across the chasm or into the chasm. You have decided to chase down a niche, an inch wide, a mile deep. It would be very tempting. And again, I saw this in my advertising days. I see it in businesses, going the shotgun approach, the scattergun approach, if you like, where it's like, because it would have been so easy for you to go, oh, there's a sporting club, I'll have a chat to them. Oh, there's a retirement home, I'll have a chat to them, because there's money there and there's money there. But to actually drill down and focus on that niche, I think makes a lot of money. I wonder whether it will pose a challenge for you going forward if you become known as CareMonkey, and even the name CareMonkey, it looks childish, if you like. I say that with the utmost respect, but you become known as the school kind of application for health information. Is it going to require sub brands going forward to appeal to sporting clubs and retirement homes?
No, look. Well, firstly, if it did become known as the system for schools, I'd be happy.
Happy days.
Because there's 10,000 of them in Australia and 100,000 in the US, and it's a huge market.
Yeah.
But having said that, what we're seeing is so clubs and businesses are still buying it, and it's interesting that, for instance, one of the footy clubs that came on board recently, they contacted us on the website because their child is at a school that uses CareMonkey. And the club president contacted us and said, "Hey, I've just had to fill out this care profile for my child at the school. This would be awesome for our club." So they get on their, so they signed up for their club. And then exactly the same thing with our first business that came on board. We've just filled out this form. This would be really great for our business. So
great. Again, there's marketing gold dripping from this ceiling, Westley. Like when we do niche down, people think you're going to polarise all other potential markets. But you don't, do you? I mean, you could if you really had polarising messages, but you've just proven that, just because you're trying to target schools doesn't mean other segments aren't going to use your service.
Yeah, correct. Now, and the other thing about picking, not going after too many verticals at the same time, it makes it really hard to get your messaging right, particularly on your website. And I still struggle with this, trying to be mainly focused on schools, but also not deter, clubs or businesses from our solution. Mm-hmm. So it is a bit tricky. It would be much easier if all I talked about was schools. But then again, I think I've made the right choice in mainly focusing on schools right now, and then try to nail some other markets. In the medium term.
Well, I mean, you're right. I mean, again, messaging, which troubles many small businesses. I mean, if you can be clear and you can, you know exactly what it is you want to say, then it just does make it a hell of a lot easier. So right now, your messaging is talking the language of probably principals and vice principals and the kind of, talking about kids and students and just getting that language right before you move on to other segments. Yeah, love it, mate. Hey, listeners, talking to Troy Westley, who is the founder of what I was originally calling an app, which, Troy, it's not. It's called CareMonkey. You can visit it at caremonkeyapp.com, but it's not an app. Explain that, Troy.
Yeah, look, what our system is, it's a health and safety system that basically allows a school or a club or a business or any group that has a duty of care. It enables them to request care information, say from parents, and the group uses our website to send invitations to parents, and the parents get an email that asks them to click a link and enter the details for their child online. It creates an online care profile that's then instantly available to the group. And then the group, say it was a school, can give access to those details to the right teacher or the right sporting coach. So I might be a classroom teacher in grade 3, and I now have access to all of the children in my class. Now, the app side of it is that the teacher can then download the free CareMonkey app for their iPhone or Android phone or tablet, and it downloads those care profiles onto their device in encrypted format. And that means even if there's no internet access, they can still access the information on the device. So say I'm a teacher, we've gone on a camp to Wilson's Promontory, somebody has an accident, and I can find out that they've got these allergies, they've got asthma. Here's what to do, and here's how to administer the medication.
Did you, with the naming of it? So I get the name CareMonkey, but you've gone with the domain name CareMonkeyApp.com, which I notice when I key in CareMonkey.com, it redirects. So you own CareMonkey.com. Was it a kind of mistake in making your primary domain CareMonkeyApp.com?
That's one of the many thousands of mistakes that I've made.
Love it.
And we do own, our whole system runs on CareMonkey.com, and the CareMonkeyApp.com is just running the WordPress site, the public website. Now that's going to move over shortly to CareMonkey.com as well. Yeah.
So CareMonkey app will redirect in the future.
It will.
Yeah. So let's talk about mistakes, because you did the barbecue tests, you went and visited schools. I'm guessing, Troy, that you've read the book The Lean Startup.
Yes, I have.
And do you subscribe to that thinking?
Yeah, we definitely we build our business on using lean startup principles.
Right. The major one being?
Doing everything that we can quickly, testing it with customers, like quick and fast experiments, not worrying about if we fail in an experiment, learning from it and just evolving fast. So we do things in small increments, make changes to our system in small increments and test them and then move on.
Brilliant. Yeah, so you don't wait. It's funny, isn't it? You've been in corporate life, and Google and Salesforce are completely different. I mean, imagine Google would move fairly swiftly despite their size, but I don't know, mate. I mean, it's one of the wonderful things about small business and startups in particular is the ability, the nimbleness to be able to move and make quick decisions.
Well, our system changes every single day.
Wow.
So there's no waiting around for the next version. It's every day something gets tweaked or improves or is added.
That would not affect, obviously, the user experience. I mean, you're talking about tiny things, not always big things, yeah?
No, not always big things, but no, and it does impact the user experience and hopefully for the better. So yes. we're making things better and easier and faster all the time.
Do you have channels for users to feed back to you?
We've got on our support site, there's a feedback link where people can give us feedback. And one of the other things we do is we send out surveys using CareMonkey from time to time, asking for feedback. Mm-hmm. And in fact, that's a really good point about sending surveys. The last question I ask in our surveys that we send out is there anything you think you could help us with? Or do you think you could refer us to somebody in your network? Mm-hmm. And we get a lot of leads from that.
Yeah, right.
It's one of the best ways to get leads is in the customer survey to request help. And your customers, if you're good to your customers, they're more than happy to help you, and it's been a really good source for us.
So that's okay. So I'm guessing that's a key marketing initiative. You do a number of things from a marketing point of view. I'm guessing the budget's very modest. Do you mind sharing how much your marketing budget is, and what the most effective marketing you do is? Yeah,
the marketing budget's zero.
No, it can't be zero.
Well, no, we just I pull out some more money and we go and do things. We haven't actually got a budget.
Right. If you think something has merit, you'll throw a modest amount of money at it, correct?
We pull the trigger, yeah.
You pull the trigger.
Yeah, and we go for it. So, for instance, the most expensive things we do are we've signed up for some trade shows.
Interesting.
We're exhibiting at CeBIT and EduTech, mm-hmm. Which are large events coming up over the next few months.
Now, why? Because CeBIT, that's a technology thing in Sydney, I thought attended by government and corporate. Don't know what the other one is, but I would have thought you'd be off at school principal conferences.
Yeah, well, EduTech's more focused in that regard.
EduTech, yeah, okay.
Yeah, but CeBIT has a startup component, and we're part of that. And there'll be all sorts of people that we can attract there, and they might be partners, they might be investors, and government. So it's good. It's good to be at that. Oh, I'm hoping it's going to be good to be at that show. It might end up being one of the other mistakes I've made. So.
I'll just chalk it up, mate.
Yeah.
1001.
Yeah.
I love your attitude. I mean, clearly there's a smile on your face when you say mistakes we've made. I mean, there's small business owners out there who lose faith every time they make a wrong decision or don't get the result they're after. But I think, again, we've got to remind ourselves why we're in small business. And, it is. I mean, we learn, as long as we learn from them, I guess, and don't repeat them over and over.
Yeah. But, and look, there's also a lot of things that you can do that don't cost any money. So, for instance, social media. So we've got a site on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. One of the really good things I do is I enter awards. I search for awards, mm-hmm. and you get a fair bit of exposure if you do well at those. So we've in the last year we've won 3 different awards. We won the State Eye Awards for Best Health App. Mm-hmm. We won the $50,000 IT invention test in December, and then just a couple of weeks ago we picked up Australia's best startup idea. Mm-hmm. Now, these things don't cost hardly any money to enter, but the upside is media exposure and people blogging about you and tweeting about you and ringing you up and saying, would you like to do an interview? So it's those things don't cost much.
Yeah, that's a great strategy. I mean, sometimes I see awards used incorrectly in the sense that people shout out, write blog, hey, we just won this award, and, they shout it out on social media ad nauseum, and I'm not sure that's the most interesting conversation to have, but, the idea of actually entering awards, hoping you win them in order to get that media exposure and all the prizes that come with it can be really useful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice, mate. Well done on that most recent award too. There was a bevy of prizes attached to it, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was quite a few things. I don't know that we'll use them all, but I didn't enter it for the prizes. I entered it for it gives you validation. One of the things that I really like is being able to put another badge on our website, so that when people actually hit the website, they say, oh, they've won this and they've won that, and it gives you a little bit of credibility.
Yeah, absolutely, it does. Now, mate, you took the leap. You found all this courage in being courageous, where you can often get the wobbles. Has there been a moment in the shower or elsewhere where you've gone, oh, geez, I'm not sure that this was the right course of action?
No, not for a second.
Not for a second. Well done.
And I've been on it for 2.5 years. I mean, there's been lots of moments where I've had where I've realised the mistakes that I've made, and the biggest one for me was not bringing on a co-founder fast enough. Mm-hmm. So I spent a year working on this by myself and outsourcing a lot of work to other people, and it was a real headache. And it wasn't until I found a co-founder he ended up being the technical side of our partnership. When I found somebody who cared about the system as much as I did, that's when we started to make a lot of progress.
How did you identify that person?
Okay, so I don't know if your listeners are aware, but there's a website called meetup.com. Mm-hmm. And all around the world there's meetups every day, and these are events that are held by different people, and there might be meetups for salsa dancing in your town tonight, or there might be there are meetups for I attend meetups that are IT related. Mm-hmm. But there was a meetup that I saw.
You've been to a salsa dancing one?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't. But I noticed a meetup called Co-Founder Speed Date, and this was a meetup where people with a business idea or people with a technical skill who wanted to join a startup company, mm-hmm. they would get together, do a speed date, and potentially you could find a co-founder. Mm-hmm. Now, I didn't actually go to that meetup, but I looked at all the profiles of the people, which you can do, and there I found Martin Howell, who's my co-founder now, and he had all the skills that I was looking for in a co-founder. He was about the same age as me, which I think was good.
I'm guessing he didn't have 7 kids.
He didn't.
No,
he had 2.
So you met with him, and the rest is history.
Yeah,
fantastic. That's a year ago.
That was about 18 months ago now.
It's great that it worked, mate, because, you hear some horror stories too. And we've on this show, recent times we've had some interesting stories about partnerships not working, family businesses, etc. So that's exciting. Troy,
so Tim, I've got another piece of advice about that. Because,
mate.
One of the things I was worried about in bringing a co-founder on board is, how do you share the business? Do you go and bring someone on board and say, okay, well, all right, we're 50-50, and then in 3 months it doesn't work out, and you've just lost 50% of your business. Mm. Right? Now, that worried me for a long time, and I did some Googling, and I found a book called Slicing Pie. And this book describes a dynamic equity split. And basically, the ingredients of the pie are valued by... your share of the pie is devised by the ingredients that you put in. And those ingredients might be time, they might be capital, they might be paying expenses or whatever. So Martin and I, when I met with Martin, I'd already read this book, and I said, Martin, if we're going to go into business together, I'd like you to read this book, because this is the model I'd like to work out how our equity share is going to work. And he thought that was a great model as well, and that's what we did. So every week we worked together, we'd put in our hours and so on, and this spreadsheet just dynamically changes. So one day I might have 50%, and the next week I might have 52%. Right? But the point is, if one of the founders decides to leave, they've still got their share, but that share will start getting smaller over time. As other people come in and start adding their ingredients to the pie, the person that's left, their share starts to get smaller. But,
can't they take their share as they leave, though?
Well, that's up to you. That's up to the agreement that you set with your co-founder. But that's certainly not what we did. And the book, I won't go through the whole book now, but I'd advise people to have a look at it if they're interested in partnering with somebody, to have a look at Slicing Pie as a good model, and that does cover those things.
How many other staff have you got now, Troy, 2.5 years in?
We've got a team of 10.
Wow. Full-time?
Most of them are full-time. There are 3 in the development team, and then there are 5 in sales. And then there's a couple of part-timers that help us with finance and.
Are we talking a virtual team here, or all based in Melbourne?
No, most of us are in Melbourne, but I've got 2 guys in Sydney and 1 in Canberra that are doing sales.
Mm-hmm. And I'm imagining you'd be entering a phase of really knocking on doors, getting out there and getting sales, getting meetings with principals.
Getting meetings is the most important part of our sales cycle.
How do you get them?
Yeah,
how do you get through the Dobermans?
All right, so this is the tricky part, and I'm not saying we've nailed this yet, because I tried lots of different ways to get appointments. One thing that's not working very well is using MailChimp. If I send glossy, nice emails, I get a lot of I might get 20% opens, but I might get no replies. Right? But if I send a short text email that looks like it's been handwritten by me specifically for that person, I get good reply. I mean, I think that's a good learning.
Yes. Let's just focus. Very good learning, big learning. I mean, these HTML emails that come out of things like SurveyMonkey or Aweber. I too often, I'm not sure what yours look like, but I think the fancier the email, the less likely you are to get a response from it, because it just looks like hard sell. Yeah. And what you've identified is a very basic, again, haven't seen it, but basic text email, personalised, even a little bit clumsy, dare I say, but just looks as if it's coming from one real person and going to another real person.
I've also found, and I learnt this from Salesforce.com, who did this very well, is that in that type of email, you try to keep it to one paragraph, and the point of the email is to ask for a referral, because people will say, "Oh, yeah, that's not my area, but I'll introduce you to Bob." Right? And that is a good way to then be connected, because then when you go and then do a follow-up email to Bob, you can say, well, Harry referred me.
Warm introduction. So that first email, I'd love to get clear on that. So you're sending it saying, hey, listen, it's Troy here from CareMonkey. This is what we do, and I'm wondering if you know anyone who could really benefit from this service.
Well, you can say, look, I'm researching whether your school is interested in, health and safety. Could you let me know who I should be speaking to? Something like that. Yep. I just spoke it quite clumsily, but that's the point. That's the point. You just ask for a referral.
More courage, Troy. You're a brave bloke. Short emails, modest marketing budgets, jumping the chasm. Must be a tough guy.
No, not really. It's a lot of it's a lot of fun.
7 children.
I've never been more energized than I am or that I have been in the last 2 years. It's doing your own thing. It's I'm waking up every morning and I'm jumping out of bed because there's a million things to do, and there's not a million people to do it.
Love it, mate. I love that. I can hear it in your voice. Tell me, I just want to finish by asking another question that will require some courage and some bottle. I look at CareMonkey and I naively say that can easily be copied. No, I put naively in bold, by the way, because I'm sure there's a bucket load of work gone into it. Of course there has, but there wasn't something like it when you started 2.5 years ago. I imagine you do have competition now.
I haven't seen anybody do what we do. Wow. I mean, the thing that's unique about us is that, let's say the school invites you to submit the care information for your child. Then as a parent, you've created a care profile for your child, but now you can share that same profile with a sporting club, and you can share it with grandma, and you can share it with a babysitter, and all of those carers are sharing the one profile. So if you then add a new emergency contact, or you upload a new asthma plan, or your child's got a new medication, you update that once, and then all of those people, the school, the club, grandma, everybody, they've got instant access to the latest care information, and nobody's done that yet. So we're kind of like the Facebook of health and safety.
Nice.
But look, but to your point though, Tim, that doesn't mean anybody can copy us. They'll have a fair bit of work to do, but it can be done. But I think about it like this. I mean, Google has tried to copy Facebook with Google+.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't think that's a success. So just because somebody copies you doesn't mean you're going to fail.
Correct.
Or that they're going to succeed. The idea is to try to make an impact first and become the de facto. And so that's what we're nowhere near that. We're nowhere near a de facto of anything yet, but that's what I'd like to get to before other people come in.
Yeah. Well, and as I always say, people can copy what we do, but not who we are. So the fact that you're building up a brand with its own language, its own personality, its own look, too, is something that's going to be tough to copy going forward. And the quicker you can embed that kind of messaging and language into as many of those 10,000 schools as possible, the better, I guess. Therein lies the challenge, huh?
Well, it is a big challenge. Yeah. And but we're having a red hot go, that's for sure.
Hey Troy, mate, I love it, mate. I love everything about this story, and I hope that we can chat in a couple of years or a year's time and get an update from you, because I can only imagine it'll be exciting times for you, and that you've kind of you've broken into an international market, which I guess is what, 6 months down the track, or?
No, we're hooking up our first demo to a school in the US next week.
Oh, gee. Love it, mate. Love your work, Troy, and I think we'll talk in 6 months' time. Forget a year.
All right. Good stuff.
Thanks, Troy.
No worries. Thanks for having me, Tim.
What a good fellow that Troy Westley of CareMonkey is. I promised there was marketing gold, and there was. It was dripping. Hope you captured some notes there. I'm going to wrap up with my top 5 learnings from that interview. However, I want to let you into a little secret that smart business owners everywhere are onto. Have you got marketing materials lying around that need a little tweaking, a little zhuzhing up? Maybe the details on your business card need updating, or your logo needs altering. Or you'd like to change the colour of that beige short shirt you accidentally wore in your profile shot. That's no worries. We can do that. Well, Swiftly can. That'll be $19 and it'll be done in an hour. Thanks to Swiftly.com. Small design fixes fast. That's how they roll. You simply upload the artwork that needs fixing, tell them what needs doing, and boom, 1 hour. And $19 later, that's $19 later, it's done. Check them out at Swiftly.com. That is SWIFTLY. So, that Troy Westley fellow, I got a lot from that interview. I captured actually way more. Normally I would share a top 3. I am going to share a top 5 marketing learnings that I took from that fireside chat. Number one, what about the idea of validating ideas with barbecue surveys? I've heard this more than once, and I think it's a great idea. Go and test your ideas with your friends and your family. But here's the thing. If they don't like it, it doesn't make it wrong. You've got to use your own instinct, your own beliefs as well. Factor that in. Imagine if Steve Jobs had have asked everyone about whether the iPod was a good idea. They would have laughed at him and he never would have done it, but he had the self-belief to go ahead and do it. Number two, enter awards media for the media coverage. That's a great idea. I'm not a big one for awards. I think they can be a bit of a distraction. But if you enter them with the idea that if you win them, you're going to use them to get media coverage, free publicity, then I think that's a really good idea. Just don't go blogging about it saying, we won this. Aren't we great? It's always what's in it for the consumer. Number three, marketing takeaway from my chat with Troy of CareMonkey. Make mistakes and make them often. How freeing is that? Just get out there, team, and make mistakes. Have a laugh at yourself along the way. We talked about laughing at the top of this program, this episode, but keep moving forward. We learn from our mistakes. If you make the same mistake 3 or 4 times, then go and take a good look in the mirror, but make mistakes, learn, and keep moving forward. Number 4, I loved his approach to simple emails. That whole HTML thing, I reckon's got hairs on it. Simple emails, personal, short. Troy was keeping them to 1 paragraph. You could even try 1 sentence. And number 5, niching doesn't mean polarising other potential buyers. I love the fact that Troy and CareMonkey have chosen to chase after schools. There's enough schools to create a business, but he hasn't polarised sporting clubs and retirement villages and other potential customers. So choose a niche, chase it down. Love that. Now, that's it. There's plenty of other learnings, but I reckon that's enough. Go and start applying some of those learnings, and you, I reckon, will improve your marketing. Hey, no listener reviews this week to be read by celebrities or anyone else. I've just been a little bit too busy. I know, isn't that? That's a weak excuse. But been travelling a lot. Last week I've been in Hobart and Sydney. In 3 days' time I go to Shanghai for a week, delivering a keynote in Shanghai in about 5 days' time. And then, you know what? I know this sounds ridiculous. It almost sounds egotistical to share, but I am delivering a keynote in Hollywood on May 5. So I've got a bit of work to do in regards to preparing for that. Got to make sure I've got the right haircut and do all that type of stuff. But no, I have been busy, so no listener reviews. There are plenty on iTunes, and if you do want to leave one, please head over to iTunes and do leave one. Good, bad, or indifferent. I love to hear what you think of the show. I've also been extremely busy inside the Small Business Big Marketing Forum, and I would love to see you in there. It is a place where us motivated small business owners hang out. We ask each other questions, we push each other along, we tell each other whether we're doing the good or the bad or the ugly in terms of our marketing. And it's just a place where we do hang out and just get our marketing sorted. I'm in there every day answering your marketing questions. You can join, you can become an exclusive member over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com. Click on the forum button at the top of the page there. It's $1 for the first 7 days. I know, too cheap. But that has been taking up my time as well. So happy days. Now, that's about it. Net Registry, get your online marketing sorted. Good luck, Karen, with the birth of your new baby son or daughter. If you want to call him or her Timbo, go ahead. Bring it on. Swiftly, small design fixes fast. That's how they roll. Next week's episode, it will be Griffo and I inside the monkey cage for a bit of funny business. So look out for that, and some ripper, and I mean ripper with a capital R, interviews coming up in the coming weeks. Enough of that. I'm Timbo Reid in Melbourne, Australia, in case you wanted to know where I was. And you've been smart enough to tune in to the world's #1 small business marketing show. May your marketing be the best marketing. Bye for now.
You've been listening to the Small Business Big Marketing Show with Tim Reid. Want more marketing goodness? Then visit smallbusinessbigmarketing.com.